Yeah. Welcome, everyone. We are showcasing tonight a murder and a reading by our comadre, Theresa Varela. So if everyone can please put yourselves on mute for now. We're going to start the evening with a little intro, a couple of questions to set the scene. Then Theresa is going to read for us. And then at the end, we're going to open up for everyone so that they can ask their own questions. Now, if you don't want to forget your questions, please put it in the chat so you don't forget, okay? All right, so here we go. I'm proud to introduce Theresa Varela. She is an award-winning New York-Rican author with a PhD in nursing research and theory development from the NYU. When she's not writing, Dr. Varela is working as a psychiatric nurse practitioner at a New York City shelter for persons living with severe mental illness. While engaged in educational process, she realized her true calling as a novelist and a poet. She was born in Brooklyn, New York, and has lived there proudly all her life. And everyone she meets is a potential character in her books. So Theresa, please tell us about Daisy. Who is Daisy and how she came to be?
Okay, Daisy is the protagonist of the Daisy Muñiz mystery series. And she came to be, after my doctorate, I took a creative writing course at Hunter College. And we had to do something based on a nursery, not a nursery rhyme, but like a fairy tale. So I chose the Three Bears, and I had a character who was Daisy, she was Goldilocks, basically. And so she, it was a very short piece, but she was born from there. It was like she was in a relationship with a very difficult relationship with a man. She ended up in a relationship her bed was too hard. Then she went into a relationship with the woman and her bed was too soft. And finally, she went into a relationship with a dog. And she figured out I needed to find out who I was, basically, Daisy. That's who Daisy was. So that's how she came to be. I was thinking about that. It was like, where did I ever find her? You know, and I wrote another novel, first of all, and then it wasn't a mystery. And then from there, all the, Daisy mysteries was spawned. Yeah.
And how did she meet her love interest, David?
She met David in the first mystery. She was being questioned. There was a murder at the hospital that she works at, and this is Knights of Indigo Blue. And he came in and he questioned her, and she was like, oh my God, thinking he was looking good. And then that night, it turns out that, or a couple of nights later, I don't remember exactly, her best friend's husband, who was also a detective, had him over for dinner. So she was able to meet him on a personal level that way.
Ooh. Now, in the book, she's intuitive. She has a little clairvoyance going on. So are these like her superpowers? Everybody's into superpowers now.
Yeah, they are her superpowers, but she's only getting to know them. So she's still like a fledgling superhero, right? She hasn't totally swirled her cape around like she's saying, wait a minute, especially in the second book, I think that she's paying more attention to her powers. And she has a mentor who's a spiritual person, but he's really not available in the second book for her because he has an accident. So she really has to depend on herself more, which, is something that we do as people who are learning spiritual lives. Yes, is that we go to people to guide us, but then we have to at some point say, hey, wait a second, what are my gifts and what can I, bring to the table?
Yes, very interesting. Now, this is book 2 for Daisy. So for those who have not read, Knights of Indigo Blue, will they still be able to understand you know, Daisy's characters in the story, you know, they're not going to miss anything if they don't read the first one first.
Yeah, no, it should be a standalone. I really want to write it that way so that, you know, if you pick up the second book, that there is some reference to her history. There's still a lot that we don't know about Daisy yet. And we're starting to know more about that in this particular book. But yeah, you can pick up, you know, Red Hook Murders and still get a full Daisy treatment.
Okay, so we're very excited about the 2 readings you're going to do for us today. So give us the setup, you know, murder in Red Hook. We know that Red Hook is in Brooklyn.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know where it is, it's sort of at the little point across from the Statue of Liberty. Well, no, not from the Statue of Liberty. It's like, where are we? Tell us.
We're in Lower Brooklyn, like right next to the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, which brings us into Manhattan. So we're right behind there. So people never have to go into Red Hook unless they want to go into Red Hook, because the hub is on the, you know, other side of the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. You have the Brooklyn Bridge and all of that. So it's a little, I'm going to call it a cul-de-sac, although it's not a cul-de-sac. It's a bona fide neighborhood. But it's really old Brooklyn. When you go there, you know, it's the wharf. There are old factories there that is just wonderful. Like the design is absolutely wonderful. You know, the Gowanus is known for being really spooky water over there. But, you know, there's been a lot of change. There's been a lot of renovation. People are reliving there. But it's a place that I knew from being a little girl that I would go with my father, who chose one of those streets to, you know, bring his car on Saturdays and look under the hood. So it's a neighborhood that I've known. I've had family that lives in Red Hook. I did nursing in Red Hook. So you know, I've had friends there as adults, you know.
Does Daisy live in Red Hook?
She doesn't. Daisy lives in Park Slope. And the murder happens to take place in Red Hook. And, you know, knowing Daisy, she's so, you know, curious, inquisitive. She's got to know everything that's going on, that, you know, she ends up going there. So we get to visit Red Hook.
Okay, so tell us about your first reading.
When you said, I didn't know I'm doing 2 readings, just
okay, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
I figured you could give us about the mystery. And then maybe a little part about the romance.
Oh, you want a little part about the romance?
Of course. Because David is in this book too, right?
What's that, David?
David is in this book too.
David goes wherever Daisy is, you will find David.
Okay.
Rod, that's his nickname because he is Rodriguez. He's Rodriguez, so she calls him Rod. And let's see. All right, I had chosen something completely different to but let me get you some of the romance. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I should have had
No, but you can start with the murder. Those are juicy too.
Okay. All right, I'll start with the romance, how he hasn't been around for a while and she doesn't know where he went, right? Which is always part of mystery. You have to think my head works in like crossword puzzles and clues and everything, right? So she hasn't seen him. She doesn't know exactly what's going on. And suddenly he shows up. It was nearing 8 in the evening as I strolled down the sycamore and magnolia-lined sidewalk. Attending the beginners meeting had evolved into my helping several other members make an inventory of needed literature. We walked over to Dizzy's for burgers and hung out together, relishing a sober evening. As I got back to the brownstone, my stomach lurched. A man's silhouette was visible in front of the second-story landing that I used to enter my apartment. It had to be the man who stood across from the house the night before. I slowed down but continued to move closer. Not sure what to do, I stopped as I reached the gate. The man moved out of the shadow, and I almost fainted in relief. Detective Rodriguez stepped into the full light of the street lamp. I climbed up the stairs, and we stood across from each other in the doorway. I was struck by an onslaught of emotions. "What are you trying to do, scare me?" I asked. The thrill of seeing Rod gave me a delicious sensation in my lower belly. "I caught an early flight," he explained. "I couldn't wait to see you. Why didn't you call me to let me know you were coming instead of standing here in the dark?" Rod smiled at me, showing his beautiful straight white teeth. He was tall and trigueño and knew exactly how to wear a suit. I like to think of myself as Lauren Bacall to his Humphrey Bogart. She also likes these old movies. She's always watching them. "I had a hunch that it might not be a good idea to wait for you like this. I was about to call you." He opened his palm to show me his cell phone. "I'm glad to see you," I said. "Things have been freaky around here." "You mean like the dude who's sitting in front of the playground watching us?" I resisted turning around. That and Rubio was shot in the shoulder. He had surgery. "Did you just come from the hospital?" he asked. I'm sure he appreciated that. "Would you believe he's home already?" I went to talk to Jose about Hector, but instead of Jose answering the door, Rubio did. That's another thing. Hector was in a car accident in Florida. I have a feeling something's not right, but I'm not sure what it is. That is a lot. I dug deep in my bag for my keys. Coming inside, I beckoned. "You mean I'm invited?" It might have been the reflection of the street lamp, but I was sure I could detect a twinkle in his eye. "Yes, you're invited." I opened the door and we walked into the second floor foyer of the brownstone. There was a pile of mail on the floor and I riffled through it, picking up a few letters and bills. I placed the guy's mail on the table attached to the floor-length mirror that took up the side of the wall. This is what I meant when I told Marge how messy they've been lately. Most of this belongs to Jose and Rubio. They've been so unavailable. It's so unlike them. Can you forget about those two for a minute? My whole body seemed to turn into molten gold. I allowed him to embrace me for a moment. It was good to be held this way, but I had to preserve some self-respect. So that's that's a thing
Yes.
for a short time.
Yes, he can't just show up and expect everything to be hunky-dory.
Yeah, just like a man.
So tell us about the murder.
Okay, the murder. I guess I will be giving away, but the murder is
Well, you don't have to tell us who did it, but who gets
no.
murdered? Is it one of her two friends downstairs?
Yeah, it's one of her two friends. It's Rubio. And I was shocked as a writer that he would, I'm like going for the series here. And then in the second installment, he's gone. It was really like disturbing to me. But that's the way it had to be. Like that was the let's see if I can find that part. Gee, you'd think that I would have all of this. So ask me some other questions while I'm.
So who is Rubio exactly?
Rubio is Jose's partner. He's his lover. They live downstairs, and they actually got the apartment for Daisy. They've been friends with her since high school, and Rubio's an artist, and Jose works in finances, and so they've been a couple for years. They're in their early 30s, late 20s, early 30s, and they've been a couple since high school, basically. Not that they were a couple in high school; they became a couple in college. They were friends in high school. So yeah, so it was very disturbing that the love of his life is just gone.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was interesting because Rubio was always very elusive, very hard to put your finger on Rubio, and now he's gone. So there's just so much that we don't know about him. And as the story unfolds, we learned that he had an art show, that he had different things going on that his partner didn't even know. So there's still some stuff I think that's to be revealed. So it's possible that even though Rubio isn't present in the stories, that his story may unfold more as we get to Jose more.
Does he get murdered at home, in the street,
He
at the
gets,
art show?
yeah, he gets murdered in Red Hook, basically. In Red Hook. It's a little complicated because he's first hurt and then later on he does okay, I can read to you where she finds out about his murder. Okay. So she's at work and she's sitting with her boss, who's the administrator. So she's the assistant, not assistant administrator, she's the assistant to the administrator, which I understand are very different types of positions. Sophia Cornelius peered at me over her reading glasses. The black silk sheaths she wore set off her necklace of double strands of hematite with a large garnet set in the middle. Softig was how my nurse friend Allie described her. Were you able to send those reports up to Mr. Donaldson? She asked. You know how nervous he gets if he has to wait for anything, Daisy. Yes, Sophia, I sent them to him last Wednesday. Working with Sophia was a job that I was beyond grateful for, but her constant follow-up, as she liked to call it, was annoying. Being an assistant to the administrator was a treasured job, and I didn't want to lose it by showing her how I sometimes felt. Yes, of course you did, Sophia said. Don't mind me. He gets nervous, and then I get nervous. My cell phone vibrated from my half-open desk drawer. Rod, finally getting back to me a day too late. I ducked close to the desk to answer. Sophia was adamant about keeping one's business and personal lives separate during work hours. I understood that to a certain point. I was the common denominator in both areas, and sometimes it wasn't so easy to accomplish the division. Hey, I can't talk right now, I launched into the phone. I thought I have already heard from you by now. Daisy, hold on, he said. Are you sitting? I've got some hard news to tell you. I was chilled by his tone. Yes, I'm sitting. I suddenly didn't care that Sophia didn't want me to take personal phone calls. I'd rather be telling you this in person, but I need your help. Sure, just tell me, I said. Go ahead. Okay, his calm was unnerving. Rubio's body was found early this morning. He's dead. I pushed my chair abruptly against the wall. There was silence at the other end of the line. Then I heard Rod's voice. It had a hollow ring to it. Did you hear me? I nodded. Daisy, talk to me. His voice was plaintive. Are you okay? Yes. A sob caught in my throat. Oh my God, I don't know what to say. Drink some water, then tell your boss you have to leave, and I'll meet you in front of the emergency room. The ER? I want you to go to the medical examiner's office. Jose will need your support. He's on his way there with Sam Harris. I sobbed again. Can you do that? Are you up to it? Yes, I'm outside waiting for you, he said. Okay. I hung up, picked up my handbag and tote, and went into Sophia's adjoining office. Sit down, Daisy ordered. You don't look well. Sophia ordered, you don't look well. I sat as she had instructed me to do. I was treading water and about to sink fast. Sophia stood up and poured me a glass of water from the carafe I'd filled for her early in the morning. Here, drink this. She sat back down and waited as I gulped down the cool water. Are you ready to tell me what's going on? Sophia put her reading glasses on, but kept her eyes on me. I nodded, ready to tell her the news, but my throat closed. Take a couple of deep breaths, she suggested. Again, I followed her instructions, and this time I could feel a release in my throat muscles. I took one more deep breath and then began talking. It's Rubio, I blurted out. He was just found dead. The only clue that Sophia had heard the news was the tightening of her lips. Eventually, she asked, how did you find out about this? That phone call? Yes, I said. You must be on your way to see Jose, I presume. Rod was the one who called. He's picking me up so I can meet Jose at the medical examiner's office. Sophia nodded and stood up again. She led me to the door. If you need to take a day or two, I have no problem with that. Just call me to let me know. I will, I nodded. As rule-oriented, as Sophia portrayed herself to be, she had been sympathetic to me in the past, and she was again today. She opened her arms to give me a hug. We parted, and I left. So that's how she gets the news.
Oh my God, at work.
I know. And it's interesting too, because I'm realizing that Daisy has a lot of relationships, a lot of people in her life that are important to her, and that she's important to them. Like, she's which we've talked about previously, she's pretty newly sober. She feels like she's made a mess of things in her life, and yet she's been able to forge some very close relationships, and it shows in her dialogue with
Yeah, because these are not just friends, they become family. They become part of her family. They're the ones who have stuck with her all this time, and then to get this news. Oh my goodness. Maria Cardez wants to know if the book is on Kindle yet, and is it on audiobook?
It's not. And that's something that I'm still struggling with, because it's not that I'll never do it. I may. I'm still thinking about it, but I've had.
Are you talking about, I'm sorry, the audiobook?
Or
the
no,
Kindle
I'm
book?
talking about Kindle.
Okay.
So Kindle, and I haven't pursued thinking about, I haven't thought about audio yet. But what happens with my Kindle experience as a writer is that Amazon gives it away for free, so that I never get any revenue, any profit from the book that I've been working on forever. I mean, you see books that are for sale for 99 cents, and that's wonderful. It's wonderful for the people who buy them, and I enjoy that too. But the authors never really get anything, from that. So that it's an unfortunate thing, and I've been thinking about it. It's not that I'm an absolute no about it, but it's something I still haven't decided for myself I'm gonna go through yet with the Kindle version.
Okay. And what about audio narrative? Any audiobooks in the future?
Maybe. I'm gonna consider that. This is still pretty fresh, right? It's a brand new book, but that's something I do need to explore. So that's not a no, but that's
like a coming soon.
Coming soon. I like that.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
Yes. So we're very excited. Oh my God. Rubio dies, and then you start finding out all these secrets about him. And is when you, like, did you know who the killer was, or is he a surprise to you too?
This time I knew who the killer was earlier on in the book. In Indigo Blue, I didn't know who the killer was until the reader knew who the killer was. Because that's how I write. I'm a pantser, and I just sit there and I write and I hear, and I, like I'm writing at by the seat of my pants. But yes, I didn't know who the actual murderer was. And she gets close to the murderer. So it's difficult because she knows them, and she's also, having contact with them. They're her acquaintances. And so it's a little tough there. It's like, it begins like, who do you trust? It's not like the bad guy is the murderer or the good guy, and that I think is a theme in most of my books. It's like there is no bad and there is no good. It's like we have a mix of it all within us.
Oh my God. Everybody has to get their own book soon. Tess would like to know, what are you reading and why?
What am I reading right now? I'm reading a book on editing. I don't remember the title. I just got it as a gift. It's I don't know if you can. Yeah, I'll have it in a second. It's in my.
So it's to help you with the writing and
to be more brave in writing and not to limit myself. I mean, because there are certain things that happen as writers, like we learn how to write, We learn how to edit a little bit better. We have editors that help us. But there's something about having, you know, passive voice, learning how to be more of an active writer, you know, in terms of the presentation of the characters. So that's what I'm looking at right now.
Mm-hmm. What have you read lately for pleasure?
Oh, for pleasure? I've been reading a lot of mysteries. I've been reading a lot of mysteries. Just regular, you know, mysteries that are not Hannah, Sophia Hannah, I think her name is, that she's actually, she began writing Hercule Poirot mysteries again after Agatha Christie, like she was given the rights by the family. So I've been reading a series of her books and she's got him down to a T. So I've been reading her. Very, very, very interesting. Just in, yeah. So so that's what I've been reading is Sophia Hannah, and just whatever mysteries I can pick up on, you know, at the library. I usually like to read at night. Oh, the other book that I was telling you about was Grammar for a Full Life, because I always know where there are readers around, there are writers there also. Yeah.
Yes. Maria Cardes has another question. Maria, do you want to ask it?
Sure, why not?
Dale. And then
Hola.
Julia has a question. Go.
Hi, Maria.
Hola, Teresa. I loved Nights of Indigo Blue. You know, it was really cool. I'm a mystery person. Okay, I love mystery, and I read American, British. I read all mysteries. And now that you mentioned this person, what was her name? Because I wanted to look her up. Sophia. Hannah. Yeah, I'm gonna check her out because I love Hercule Poirot. I love, you know, Agatha Christie. She's one of my favorite, you know, mystery writers. I think she was so brilliant at it. And so that's really cool. So my other question was, are you already working on like your next series of the Daisy mysteries?
I am. I've started what I hope to have by Christmas of 2023, by the holiday season. And I have a title. I don't know if it's going to remain, but look out for Deadly Little Christmas. And Little Christmas is because little
oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
That's cute.
And
yeah,
in
I'm
this,
looking forward.
and in this particular story, her best friend Letty is the main person who comes through. So like I hope with the different books that each different character has a little something that goes on. So this time it's Letty's turn. Like she kind of stepped up and said, oh, this is about me now. So we'll find out about it.
Oh, great.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but did you notice that each of your books has a color?
Yes.
So you need, the Little Christmas needs a color. So you need to
Does Las Comadres want to give me a suggestion?
Yeah. Well, Christmas is green. You've already done red. You've already done blue. You need red, white. Yeah. But anyway, Julia has a question and then Nidia has a question.
Okay.
Julia?
Hi, comadre.
Hi, comadre.
So I know it's a series, and will there be more than 3 books? Do you think that there's more to Daisy and her being, you know, a mystery solver that, or involved in these mysteries, that will go on maybe more than a typical trilogy?
Yeah, I'm at that point right now where I'm really thinking about that. Excuse me, as I said that I'm just drinking some water. I had written a first book about Daisy, and it was called Woman Found. And it's really the backstory of how we get to where we meet Daisy in Nights of Indigo Blue. So I've thought about at the end of these 3 books is to then publish that, and that might be it. more I think about, there's so much more, because I already have other ideas of other, and I might just continue to use it as the backdrop, you know, as what my knowledge is of Daisy, and then letting that go out and, you know, little by little into the books. So, you know, it's a choice that I'm still making. It depends on Daisy. Like, you know, my characters speak to me. So I have to, you know, listen to what she says. Is she, you know, does she show up again? Does, you know, another character like Rubio's little sister showed up in the last in this book in Red Hook Murders, and I feel like Nina, I feel like she's got something to say too. So like, who knows what book where Nina is the main character. So, you know, I have to be open. You know, as I said, I don't plan my writing to begin with, so that, you know, like I'm just sitting there and suddenly I start hearing them and it's like, oh, I got to go run and write what they're telling me to write. So as long as they keep talking, I'll probably keep writing.
Awesome. Awesome. I love when an author, I guess, branches out and doesn't limit themselves to the 3. You know, maybe there's a 2.5 in there somewhere, or 1.5, something that comes to you later on. It could be years down the line, but it fills out the story and gives us an opportunity to read all the books all over again. So
that's
I love
great.
that. And then I also, my second question was, it's always hard to learn to get the news of someone passing away. And so you chose for Daisy to hear it, you know, at work, you know, through Rod. Was there a conscious effort put into where she was going to hear that news? Because, you know, you think about the surroundings and how they're going to react, etc. Was there an effort put into, well, maybe I want her to hear it here at work versus, you know, when she's walking down the street, you know, or something?
Yeah, you know, there was really no effort. That's just where, it's not like an intention that I had that she would hear the news at work. It's just where she heard it, because when you read the beginning of the book, you realize that she's been basically following Rubio for the last couple of days. Like she's seen him at the hospital when he gets shot. She goes and she visits him. She goes to his apartment the next day to find, because he left the hospital early, like what was going on? Like, where are you? How are you? And she's so troubled by him. So, you know, it's interesting. I think it's like all of us, like we try to keep everything, like we want to control everything, right? We want to know everything. We want to know how everything is, how everybody or our loved ones are. And then we just, you know, we find the news in another way, or something changes, our trajectory changes, and suddenly it's there in front of us. So there, you know, there are parts of our lives that we don't control. So she could have found out about it earlier. She thought everything was okay, that he had been hurt, but that, you know, things were going to be fine. And then it turns out that he was killed in a very different sort of way, which you don't find out exactly how until later on in the book. So painful, right? Like we want to control everything. We want to know everything. And then we
Thank you.
Yes. Nidia?
Yes, Comadre Teresa, how are you?
I'm good, Comadre.
I'm wondering, who was your inspiration for the main character? Where did you get her? She's so particular, so special.
Yeah, thank you. You know, as I said earlier, she had come to me in a creative writing course that I had taken, you know, quite a few years ago. And she just stayed with me. Like she is just very real. Like my characters, you know, they're almost like my friends. I mean, it's really funny. I talk to my spouse about my partners, and then I start laughing because it's like, oh my God, it's like I went to a social with them or something, you know, because I really get to know my characters. I don't, you know, we haven't spoken about Coney Island Siren yet because it's not, you know, or we haven't because it's not in the series, but that character and Julia from Covering the Sun with My Hand, these were characters that I loved, that, you know, I was so hurt for them. Like I went through their experiences with them, but it's really them telling me what their stories are. So it's not so much that I'm creating them, that I'm thinking, oh, she has friends that live here, or that she came out of a bad relationship, or that it's, you know, they tell, this is my story. You know, I work, you know, my work all day long. I sit and you know, I speak to clients and they tell me their stories. So my life is filled with stories. And I think that my characters are very much like the real people that I sit in front of. And you know, part of that is the ability to listen to them and not create it for them, not make what I would want them to happen, you know. Like in Coney Island Siren, I was not happy with her life, with what was going on, but that was her story. So I had to be true to the character.
Mhm. Well, talking about Coney Island's Siren, are you purposely setting all your books in New York?
Yeah, good question, Maria.
Yeah,
No.
because you got Red Hook, you got Park
Yeah.
Slope, you got Coney Island. I mean, this is Brooklyn.
Yeah, I think that, well, I'm a Brooklyn girl, you know, I'll always be a Brooklyn girl, no matter what, no matter where I like right now, I'm sitting in Brooklyn, you know, and no matter where I go, I will always be a Brooklyn girl, you know, and that's just it. Whatever credentials, whatever happens to me, that's where my heart is. This is where my heart is, and I know Brooklyn. So that I think that might be why it just comes to me so easily, you know. And then they say, you know, like Maggie was on the boardwalk, right? She was on the boardwalk, and that's where her story started. And how many times have I stood on that boardwalk, like since a child? So it's something that I know, so that, you know, it's not that I don't want to write a story about a person in France. It just doesn't come to me. And, you know, maybe I'm telling stories of Brooklyn girls, you know, that this is the Brooklyn girl. And but, you know, it may be a Brooklyn girl, but people from, you know, women all over can identify with, and men too, you know, they can identify with that. It was interesting because my son, he calls me up, he's living in Texas now, right? A Brooklyn boy who's now living in Texas. And he called me and he said, Mom, he says, when they took out that pizza at the end of the book and they were celebrating, he said, I wanted to be at Smiley's. Like he could taste the pizza in that on that page, you know. So it's like something that happens to you that is just, you know, part of who we are, part of our makeup. So maybe I'll do you know, I have thought, you know, because I have traveled, you know, I've gone to France, you know, to Spain, and I've thought about maybe having Daisy go there at some point and you know, see how that is, see what kind of a storyline comes up.
But you know,
Yeah.
Daisy doesn't have to go far. All she needs is a token. And you know, she's in Queens, she's in Manhattan, she's in Staten Island. You know, there are other places to set murders in the city, you know. Something on the Staten Island ferry. Come on. A dead body at Rockefeller Center.
You know, this is great. I'm gonna have to
There you
write
go,
this
your
all
deadly
down.
white Christmas at Rockefeller Center. You know, they go to do the Zambui thing and they find a dead body. There you go.
That's gonna have to be another one, because I hate to tell you the news, but this story is already in Sunset Park. Well, Christmas is already in Sunset Park, but that's because that's where Letty lives.
Look at that. Look at that. Very good. Very good.
I'm listening.
This is good. More questions? Let's see, who else? Maria Cardes, I guess she's reading our newsletter where you were talking about how you and your partner, Patricia, you went hiking, you visited the countryside and stuff like that. And so Maria's suggesting those locations as well. There's murder everywhere.
There is murder everywhere, and that's my terror, is that one day I will, you know, come upon a body or something on those during one of those hikes or something. But yeah, I am keeping an open mind. So when Daisy says she wants to go into the Poconos or go to wherever it is, I'll be happy. Even if it's just a weekend trip with Rod, like what could be better than going to one of those spas out there, right? And getting into a hot tub. I think my next book is being created as we speak here.
There you go. And are things going to be heating up with Rod?
They are heating up with Rod, but Rod has he has some baggage there that we find out in Red Hook Murders, that murder that is not too cool. So she has some difficulty dealing with the fact that there are certain things that are going on with Rod that that
Okay.
more reveals.
Is Rod a Brooklyn boy?
No, he's not at all. He's not. He's from Chicago.
Oh.
He was living in Chicago and he was undercover and he had to come to New York because it was unsafe for him there. And he has family there that he left in Chicago that he didn't tell Daisy about to begin with. And that's why he wasn't there early on, because he was busy
Oh.
with Chicago and everything that has to do with Chicago.
Oh. See, this is a good part where, everybody has to, check into their Amazon and order the book, so that we can all talk about Rod.
Right. And what's going on with Rod in Chicago. That,
Mhm.
you can leave your environment and that the problems are going to be behind you, but wherever you go, there you are. Unless it's a vacation, then you can
Mhm.
just leave your problem.
Is Rod Puerto Rican?
Rod is Puerto Rican.
Okay.
And I think I got that idea of him coming from Chicago because when my parents met, they went to Chicago for a while. So before I was born, they were in Chicago and then they came back to New York. So there's, like a whole contingent of Puerto Ricans who live who went to Chicago. And then there are those who stayed in New York. So I could have been a Chicago person and then all of my stories would have been in Chicago.
Yeah, but Brooklyn is better. Brooklyn is better.
Spoken like a real New Yorker.
I know, right? I know. I tell them, people ask me, would you move out of New York? And I'm like, no. I mean, I have lived other places, but I always come back to New York, but people are so rude. I says, I am not rude. I say, excuse me before I push people out of the way. I'm a nice person. I say, excuse me, then I push them. Oh, Julia has another question.
I need to get an autograph copy because all my copies of your books are autographed. So I don't want to order it from Amazon. Where can I order it from?
You need to come to New York. Tell her.
Yes.
Teresa, tell her you need to come to New York.
Soon, sooner than you think. I'll be there really soon, but I promise I'll give you notice. I'm working on it.
Please, I'm not selling it on my website anymore, but you can text me. You can email me and we will arrange that. I would love to do that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
You have to get little plates, autographing plates, and then you can mail them.
Okay.
Have you seen those?
I brought a pad of paper, a legal size pad of paper here because you're giving me great ideas, Maria.
They're all yours. They're all free. Comadre to comadre. Any more questions before anything? Sunshine
look
Girl, any
forward-
question?
I just look forward to these little seeds that we've dropped. Maybe seeing them appear in a book one day. And we'll say, oh, I was there when she thought, when somebody mentioned that. Yes, there it goes. So.
And Maria's a great name for a character,
Yes. I thought about that name actually the other day for one of the characters. So you may be seeing it in the next book.
Yes.
Wonderful.
It's always difficult to think of names for characters, but I have a whole bunch of names here and
Yes. Feel free.
I won't kill her off. Don't worry.
Well, at least let me have like a book or two and then kill me off.
Unless you're the murderer.
Ooh, yes. But I have to have a really good reason. I did it for love. Rob thinks he can play around with me. I'm sorry. I got to make him suffer.
Well, then I won't talk about Rod anymore, but when you'll find more about Rod as we go along, Mr. David there. Yeah.
Well, thank you for spending the evening with us. We're very excited about, Red Murder in Murder in Red Hook and everything. And we're looking forward to Deadly White Christmas next year. And we wish you lots of luck. And we're very excited for you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, everyone. I love this tonight. Just chatting and chatting about Daisy, but also, getting together with my comadres, which I'm not doing so often. This is really, really lovely. And I thank you.
Good.
Thank
All
you.
right, everyone. Have a good night. And don't forget to get your copy of Murder in Red Hook. All right. Good night. Thank you,
Good
Theresa.
night. Bye.
Bye.